Case study: Building Peace in Northern Ireland, creating a positive climate for change. This is based on several experiences I've had there in a divided society that's emerging from hundreds of years of conflict. Imagine walking down the street. Would you feel safe or nervous? The red hand on the right of that mural is the sign of the Protestant paramilitaries. If you were a Protestant, you might feel safe that someone had your back. If you were a Catholic, you might be very nervous walking there, given who's proclaiming that they control the neighborhood. So the challenges to schools are intense, monumental. How can they help young people unlearn generations of hatred, prejudice, racism, anger, violence, and find a new way forward? Why case studies generally? Content often can match the complexities inherent in real-world issues. Too often in school, we reduce curriculum to the most basic elements without letting students see what the applications are. Case studies are also an opportunity to go in-depth and add meaningful content that can help engage students in issues that matter. Obviously, life and death is often at stake in Northern Ireland, at least in the recent past up until the peace accords were signed in 1998. Case studies are also an opportunity for students to apply the knowledge that they have studied, to analyze problems and issues, to synthesize material from different disciplines and evaluate outcomes. This is the classic hierarchy of Benjamin Bloom and his colleagues. So here's a question: what complex case in your own subject area would you want to explore, which would make your content come alive? Here's a map of the United Kingdom and Ireland. After colonizing Catholic Ireland in the 16th century, British controls periodically sparked resistance that often became violent, especially in the north. They came as the more powerful military force and dominated the local inhabitants, putting them into second-class citizenship or worse, and the legacy of that continued for generations. This is a map of Northern Ireland after Irish independence in 1918 and the division of the island. Northern Ireland continued to seethe with a climate of prejudice, resentment, and competition for power. The challenge for schools is how to recast the curriculum so the future is one that embraces both populations. What lessons on a positive climate for change would be useful here? What can teachers and ordinary citizens do about facing threats and finding nonviolent alternatives to conflicts? Too often, the weapon was the first choice when a conflict emerged. 2. What can teachers and ordinary citizens do about reconciling old wounds and differences? People have long memories, and something will have to be done to help young people reinterpret those stories and do some real healing. 3. What can teachers and ordinary citizens do about contributing to sustainable community well-being, not just to stop the fighting, peacekeeping, but to build new policies and practices, what we refer to as peacekeeping, and then build positive community relationships, what we talk about as peace building. Finally, how can a positive climate help students and educators address historic differences, conflicts, and prejudices? In the integrated schools in Belfast, where I visited, teachers were exploring new curricula that did not feature a Catholic hero or a Protestant hero, but inclusive heroes that everyone could acknowledge. So this is on a mural near Queen's University. Question: what is the impact on schools and classrooms of this kind of image on the signs of buildings in various neighborhoods across Northern Ireland? This is a sign for a Protestant paramilitary in this area, and especially for young men, intense pressure to contribute to what these paramilitaries insisted was defense of their community. Up the road, however, was an exciting, alternative, creative enterprise timber recycling eco-enterprises, where with startup money from the European Union, this small group of individuals got together to create a very exciting, new, different apprenticeship program to address the lack of education, underemployment, and pervasive prejudices. Here they are, the fellow on the left with the New York Yankees hat. I'm shaking his hand, is a carpenter. To my left is another carpenter and then an office manager. They put a proposal together and got 5 years of funding. Since then, they have maintained their viability by reducing waste, 2, teaching marketable green skills, and 3, pairing Catholic and Protestant youth as a way to unlearn prejudice and hatred. So back to number 1. They were diverting discarded wood from construction sites that were heading for the landfill. So reducing waste and making something viable out of that waste. Cardinal principle of sustainability. 2, they were teaching marketable green skills to unemployed youth in battleground areas. So often these youth are recruited into the paramilitaries because they're unemployed and they have few skills. Reworking wood that's headed for the landfill potentially is a very viable skill. They were using power tools, and so these young men in particular could go out and find jobs in various sectors. And 3, very exciting, they insisted on pairing Catholic and Protestant youth together. What we know of from Alport's work on prejudice, perhaps the most powerful mechanism for reducing prejudice. Think about any team you've been on or any group that performed where there was a intense collaboration was essential, and the performance aspect really forced new friendships and new bonds. We know that's one way for people, young people in this case, to unlearn the lessons they were taught by parents and community members. This is Mayred Corrigan McGuire, who won the 1976 Nobel Peace Prize. Her question: how do we inspire teachers, students, and other ordinary people to do the extraordinary? She led grassroots efforts to reclaim public parks that had become the sole possession of either Protestant communities or Catholic communities. That sparked intense conversations, discussions. News media came around as these people marched into one contested area, then another, and eventually helped swing the whole mood of people of Northern Ireland to get past these battles and hatreds and prejudices and move into a more inclusive future. So, lessons about creating a positive classroom climate and culture. 1, we need to recognize the relationship of hope and education, the needed skills, the connection of these to motivation and learning. For these young people to get new skills and to unlearn their prejudices frees them up to focus on the skills they need to move into the future. Another big lesson from the research on climate is the importance of building a foundation of mutual respect and trust, in this case between former enemies. Another lesson from climate is addressing problems that emerge, in this case prejudice, unemployment, lack of education. And this startup company of Tree fit this new spirit of reinventing Northern Ireland. So think of the 4 C's when you want to talk about building a positive climate. 1, the importance of communication. 2, importance of cooperation and the skills that go with that. 3, the importance of thinking critically, not just parroting what was told from the past. And 4, thinking creatively, looking for new ways forward and not just the lessons from old. So, for example, murals don't have to just feature hooded gunmen. New generation of murals can feature uplifting positive images. Questions to ponder. How can this case study help your own teaching or presenting? Think about the obstacles in a Belfast, in a Londonderry, across Northern Ireland, and what those teachers have to address. And then imagine the problems that surface in your own subject area, problems that can engage students in something meaningful. 2, when have you experienced anything like what is described here, where conscious effort was made to bridge differences and heal old wounds?